Utah really is a wild ride.
Here in America's Mountain City, every great alpine adventure begins with a bestie and a beverage.
Have you ever had a dirty soda?
No.
Get over here. We're going.
Let's do it.
Utah native and Dancing with the Stars pro Jenna Johnson bringing us to Swig, the Utah-based dirty soda shop turned cultural phenomenon.
Dirty soda is just anytime you put a flavor, a puree, a cream in a drink.
Utah is like land of the Mormon bar, which are all the soda shops that we have.
It's kind of our vice.
That's worth a little confession on Sunday.
I think that's about 4.7 sextillion combinations.
It's an all-hands-on-deck situation.
Hi!
Hey, polka dots. Jenna, it's a Diet Texas Tab Light Ice.
Oh my gosh, I made a Texas. You made our most popular drink.
I feel like I'm getting the hang of this, Anna. We got a complicated order. Camille.
Off the clock and on the hunt for adventure. We hit the road for the scenic and speedy trip from Salt Lake City to Snowbird. It only takes half an hour to get from the city to the mountains. With some of the best skiing and snowboarding in the country comes the risk of avalanches, which is where Mabel comes in.
Has Mabel ever been part of an avalanche rescue?
Yeah, we have deployed several times, and luckily the victims that we were looking for had the training, but these dogs are also a really good tool for us to have when that doesn't go to plan.
Mabel is a star student year-round.
What is the drill that we can run with Mabel today?
We have what we call bark barrels, and we have a person hide inside the bark barrel. With these dogs, the main indication we look for is we want them to dig in the snow where they find the person.
Search!
Mabel is on the move.
Just keep hiding, just keep hiding.
Yes, girl. You found me.
Utah really is a barrel of fun. So what better than a ride on the Snowbird Mountain Coaster to close out our adventure?
We used the brakes exactly 0 times for anyone keeping count at home.
0.
Oh, and Diane, I don't want to brag, but I did make $2 whole in tips while I was working the drive-through line at Swig. But listen, I'm not the only one coming out a winner today. I want you to take a look at these views. Just beautiful here, 11,000 feet above sea level here at Snowbird Mountain in Utah. This is just one of our many, many stops celebrating America 250. Diane, back to you.
Will Gans with the assignment everybody wanted today. Will, thank you. And thank you for watching. I'm Diane Macedo. The news never stops, and neither do we. We have a lot more news right after the break. Stay with us.
Don't rush cherry dark chocolate. Take your sweet time. That's Daz.
I'm Diane Macedo. Today on ABC News Live First, the U.S. and Iran are accusing each other of violating the ceasefire. The U.S. says it hit a military facility threatening the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran retaliated on an American base in the region. Why the president's now threatening an ally, and why he says he's under no political pressure to reach a deal with Iran. The Ebola outbreak is growing. The CDC is reporting more than 1,000 suspected cases. Now the Secretary of State says any Americans exposed won't come into the U.S., where they'll be sent instead, and why doctors treating patients say the virus isn't the only challenge they're facing. And the race to rescue 7 trapped miners. New video shows divers finding them alive in a flooded cave. Now the question is how, or 5 of them rather, now the question is how to get them out as the search continues for 2 still missing. But first, the U.S. and Iran are accusing each other of violating the ceasefire. The U.S. says it hit Iranian military targets threatening the U.S. forces and commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Then Iran's Revolutionary Guard launched retaliatory strikes on a U.S. airbase in Kuwait. Now President Trump is making new threats against an American ally in the region. White House correspondent Karen Travers has more on all of that. Hi, Karen. What's the latest on these strikes?
Yeah, Diane, this is a potentially big escalation during this fragile ceasefire that the president had already said was on life support. The United States and Iran overnight were trading strikes against each other. The U.S. struck an Iranian ground central station that the military says was preparing to launch a one-way attack drone. The U.S. military also was able to shoot down 4 other one-way drones coming from Iran. But now CENTCOM, the U.S. military, is saying that Iran has violated the ceasefire. They're calling this an egregious ceasefire violation with a ballistic missile that was aimed at Kuwait, targeting a U.S. airbase there. They say that Kuwaiti forces were able to successfully intercept this. But Diane, the big question now is, what will the White House do about this? What is the president going to do to respond to what they're saying is an egregious violation? For now, they have continued negotiations even as these strikes have gone back and forth. Remember, the president referred to the U.S. strikes against Iran during the ceasefire as love taps at one point, and the military has been saying that some of these strikes by Iran have not reached the level of a violation. But now they're making it very clear that they do see this one aimed at the base in Kuwait as an egregious violation, and there are a lot of questions now about what the U.S. military might do next.
And Karen, just days after President Trump said the U.S. and Iran were near a deal, but he now says Iran's negotiating on fumes. So where do things stand?
He is in no rush to make a deal. He made that very clear yesterday. At one point, he said that if the Iranians thought they could wait him out, they could just keep doing that, that he is not concerned about a political timeline. He said he doesn't even care about the midterms, even as Americans continue to face very high gas prices and are feeling the pinch because of the ongoing costs of the war against Iran. But yesterday, the president said, in response to a question from our Rachel Scott, that one of the key demands that Iran seems to be making, and they were claiming it was going to be a concession by the United States, that they could have control over the Strait of Hormuz in a deal with the United States. The president said that is not going to happen, that nobody is going to control it. It will be an open waterway because it's an international waterway. So at this point, that was a response from Iran. The White House called it a total fabrication. It's not clear yet where these negotiations can go from here. And Diane, this launch at the base in Kuwait certainly could complicate things, even as they have continued negotiations over these last couple of weeks during a ceasefire that has certainly been anything but.
All right, Karen Travers for us at the White House. Thank you.
Good morning.
Let's bring in Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute, Trita Parsi, for more on all that. Hi, Trita. So you say low-level conflict like this gives the U.S. an advantage. Why?
I don't think it gives it a significant advantage, but I think the administration may be calculating that this is a way of eroding Iran's deterrence. The Iranians clearly are careful about how they're responding. Obviously, an attack on an American base in Kuwait is not necessarily a small retaliation, but it seems like it has been intercepted. It's not entirely clear whether the Iranians were really aiming to inflict a lot of damage or whether they knew that 1 or 2 missiles would easily be intercepted. It's usually when they have a combination of different missiles and drones that they are more successful in actually penetrating their defense systems. But if this continues for a very long time and it never actually escalates fully, I think the U.S. calculation may be that this will have really eroded Iran's deterrence because it becomes normal for the United States to strike Iran without the Iranians being able to fully strike back. But that is not necessarily going to translate into a significant advantage in the negotiations. All that will do ultimately will probably lead to a larger escalation in which the tables can be turned.
Trita, what do you make of President Trump threatening to blow up Oman if it partners with Iran on the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not entirely sure that he actually meant Oman. He may have misspoken. He may have said Iran, and we've seen him issue threats against Iran on a regular basis. I think it would be very odd for him to suddenly speak of military action against Oman in a serious fashion. I think it's noteworthy that we've not seen any repetition by the U.S. that the U.S. is seriously considering taking military action against Oman. But these, and I do assume that he misspoke, but nevertheless, it does inflict damage, and it's already at a sensitive moment in U.S.-Omani relations. Their two countries are allies, they're friends, but there's a lot of frustration on both sides. The Omanis are very upset that Trump did not go for the deal that they had mediated before this war, that could have prevented this entire war. And that afterwards they decided to rely on Pakistan as a mediator rather than Oman, who has much, much longer experience in mediating between the United States and Iran. So there were already some tensions and a degree of mistrust between the two sides. A comment like this lands very badly in politics.
And Trina, meanwhile, Israeli operations in Lebanon are intensifying, including new strikes in Beirut. How is that impacting talks with Iran?
Well, you know, the memorandum says that there should be a region-wide ceasefire, and that ceasefire also is including Lebanon and its strikes, Israel and its strikes on Lebanon. If the Israelis do not abide by that ceasefire, if the United States is unwilling or unable to deliver Israel and make sure that Israel complies, then the whole ceasefire and the whole deal, not just a ceasefire, but a larger agreement on the nuclear issue, will be jeopardized. It's actually one of the main risks with this deal, which is that the Israelis are constantly indicating that they're not going to be beholden to an agreement that they did not negotiate themselves. But if they don't, that means that they also sabotage the deal that I think Trump very much wants to have and very much needs to have.
All right, Trina Parsi, great to have you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And a former CIA officer is accused of tricking the agency and stealing millions of dollars in gold. The FBI is charging David Rush with theft after allegedly finding more than 300 gold bars, cash, and luxury watches at his home. Now, court documents say he also faked his education and credentials to get the job at the CIA. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more on that story. Hi, Stephanie.
This is shocking on a few different levels. Court documents say David Rush faked his credentials for 17 years. And one source familiar with the case telling ABC News he ultimately worked for the CIA. Prosecutors argue Rush obtained a fraudulently inflated salary and obtained military leave. In November of last year, he allegedly made several inquiries asking for significant amounts of foreign currency and tens of millions of dollars in gold bars for work-related expenses. During the investigation, the FBI says they found more than 300 gold bars at his home, weighing nearly 700 pounds and were worth around $40 million. They also reportedly found around $2 million in cash and 35 luxury watches. But allegedly, there is more gold that is unaccounted for. The alleged web of lies started in 2009 when court documents say Rush lied about his resume, saying he attended Clemson University when he did not, and falsely claimed to be a Navy pilot. Rush is now facing a charge of theft of public money and has not yet entered a plea. He has a hearing scheduled for tomorrow. Both sides have requested a continuance for June 5th. Diane.
Stephanie Ramos, thank you. And Jill Biden speaking out about her husband's disastrous 2024 debate against President Trump. The debate performance eventually forced President Biden to end his re-election campaign. Now the former First Lady says she thought he was having a stroke on stage. ABC's Andrew Fujii has more on how Jill Biden is detailing it all in a new book.
Jill Biden opening up about her husband's infamous 2024 debate performance.
I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since.
She says she feared her then 81-year-old husband was experiencing a medical condition.
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
During the debate, Biden often paused, stuttered, and spoke incoherently.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Less than a month later, he dropped out of the race. He blamed his performance on being tired from traveling before the debate.
I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
Jill Biden is speaking out now ahead of the release of her new book, View from the East Wing, a memoir. But her husband's memoir, released back in 2017, is also in the headlines. It's the subject of a new legal battle. The former president sued the Justice Department this week to block the release of interview transcripts and hours of recordings with his ghostwriter for the memoir. The materials were obtained by the Justice Department during the investigation into Biden's handling of classified materials. No criminal charges resulted from the investigation, but critics want access to those recordings, claiming they could reveal more about Biden's cognitive abilities at the time. If the court does not take action, those recordings could be released next month. A Biden spokesperson insists they serve no public interest and says releasing them would violate Biden's privacy.
Andrew Fujii, thank you. And the race is on to get 7 trapped gold miners out of a flooded Laos cave. We're seeing some new video of the moment rescue divers found 5 of them alive, huddled together on a rock. Now rescuers are trying to figure out how to get them out of the cave and searching for 2 miners still missing. Foreign correspondent Britt Clinton has the latest from Hong Kong. Hi, Britt.
Hey, Diane. Well, this is a very complex, difficult rescue. Narrow, partially flooded cave to try and extract those 5 gold miners and search for those 2 others who are still missing.
Dramatic new video capturing the moment 5 of those 7 people were found alive after being trapped in a cave for over a week. Rescuers navigating narrow, jagged tunnels 1,000 feet long and murky waters, eventually finding the 5 miners huddled together on a rock, cold and hungry, but uninjured. Thank you, said one of the survivors.
That first minute that I found them, they are flying, and like there are a lot of hope to go back. I'm also cried too when I first saw them.
Outside the cave, rescuers celebrating. Now the complex mission is underway to extract the miners from the flooded cave and finding the 2 who are still missing. The divers squeezing through the tunnels less than 2 feet wide while carrying oxygen tanks and supplies.
I have to like lean my body like that to come in. Sometimes I get here like this. We cannot like just go. It's super narrow.
It will likely take days for the miners to be brought to safety. Rescue divers providing them with extra energy gels, electrolytes and water to keep them stable until they can be brought out.
And we've been told more divers are coming who can work their way through the narrow passages of this cave system. One of the divers coordinating the mission, he says they're trying to pump out water from the tunnel, but he fears that rain could be on the way. Diane?
Britt Clinton, thank you. And the Pacific Northwest could get hit with severe thunderstorms today. Damaging wind, large hail, and even a tornado are possible. Meteorologist Ken Jawecki is tracking that, plus the high temperature trend we'll see through the weekend. Ken, how's it looking right now?
Well, Diana, it's looking like this. We just had a little bit of rain from Kansas down to Louisiana, but really it's an interesting system out in the west. I'm going to nerd out here just a little bit because we don't see this type of system that often. There's a low pressure system just off the coast of San Francisco that's kind of spinning around. It's going to give snow actually today in the Sierra Nevada. That's going to be for Mammoth Mountain. They're going to see about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall there today. They're actually just announced that they're going to have their skiing open until June 7th. That's a Sunday. And we see also on the northern side of this storms that are moving to the west, and that's going to bring that severe weather threat. Here's 7:15 p.m. here Mountain Time, and you can see we're looking at Bend, Oregon, up to Lewiston, seeing the storms at that point. But it's a wide area from Boise up to Spokane, over to Yakima and down to Burns and Bend, Oregon. That's where we're looking at that chance for some of these supercells this afternoon and this evening to have damaging winds and large hail, and even an isolated tornado too. So watch it in that area. Part of it's because it's so warm up there. Temperatures in the 80s today before those storms get in. Much colder though on the other side of this system where you're seeing that snow in California. Meanwhile, once we look at the storm track over the south, it's going to stay very cool there because they're going to get still more rain in the coming days and through the weekend. You can see Thursday through Sunday, that's through the rest of May. We're looking at that rainfall from Montana straight down diagonal all the way down to Florida there, about a widespread 1 to 2 inches. Some areas seeing a little bit more than that. And then that's going to continue next week with rain across the south, but warm through the north and the west next week, Diane.
Ken Jawecki, thank you. Coming up, the growing crisis at the center of the Ebola outbreak, why doctors in Africa say the virus isn't the only challenge they're facing. Welcome back to ABC News Live First. Jakub Mensik is speaking out after collapsing on the court at the French Open. Mensik says after a nearly 5-hour match in more than 90-degree heat, his body, quote, just turned off. Officials say he stayed on the ground for several minutes, eventually walked off the court, then was taken to the locker room in a wheelchair. Still, Mensik says he'll be ready for tomorrow's match. And the White House says no one with Ebola will be allowed to enter the U.S., even Americans. The World Health Organization is reporting more than 1,200 suspected cases. Now the White House says Americans in Africa exposed to Ebola will be sent to a facility in Kenya. This rare strain has no vaccine or cure and comes in the wake of recent foreign aid cuts. ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge takes us to the epicenter of the spread.
The latest Ebola outbreak is outpacing the response. The International Rescue Committee now predicts it could become the deadliest outbreak of Ebola on record.
The outbreak is completely out of control. People doesn't trust that, Ebola is a reality.
When we have fought Ebola in the past on this scale, it has been a combination of the Ministry of Health, WHO, USAID, CDC. USAID is fully gone. CDC is badly weakened. WHO has been badly weakened. The U.S., of course, withdrew from WHO and cut off all funding. The virus is affecting parts of Congo and Uganda. These are the dire scenes in Ituri, the worst-hit region in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, where civil war, which has displaced around 3 million people, further complicates efforts to track and contain the disease.
Are you seeing new cases of Ebola suspected and confirmed in the region every day?
Every day. The patient keep coming.
Health officials believe a rare strain of the deadly virus was possibly circulating for up to 3 months undetected in eastern parts of the DRC. That late detection means the true scale of this epidemic, which the World Health Organization is calling a global health emergency, is still emerging.
So there are a few things that set this outbreak apart. One is the momentum it has right now. There are now more than 1,000 cases of this that are known, and that is likely an undercount, perhaps even an undercount by a factor of 2 or 3. To put that in perspective, the huge West Africa outbreak that caught the world's attention back in 2014, in which